So I have been working in 3D printing since 2015, starting out at a product design company, which then created a giant print farm that we then made as a service for other people to use. So I have created multiple six-figure 3D printing businesses over that time and currently operate a much larger 3D printing business than that helps thousands of other 3D printing businesses actually sell products and be successful. So in this video, we're going to talk about everything that I can possibly tell you about running a successful 3D printing business. And we're going to go ahead and start with 3D printing service bureaus. So this is what almost everybody kind of gets into. If you have a single 3D printer or you're a professional, you may want to start doing 3D printing as a service. Somebody comes to you and they ask you, can you make this part for me? And you say, yeah, I can make this part. This is the most common one to do because it doesn't really require any creativity of you. Other people are bringing you their ideas and you just have to be an expert in 3D printing. This is the trick to it all, is that you have to be the expert in 3D printing. You can very easily make toys and joystick stands and that kind of chintzy stuff for people who are friends, neighbors, family, but it doesn't really turn into a real business. We're interested in making a real business, a six-figure, seven-figure kind of business. In order to do that, you are really going to be focusing heavily on systems inside of this business. How does somebody submit a quote? How is that quote processed? What are the file formats? You are going to go through all of that. You're going to simplify it and focus it as much as possible. There are lots of 3D printing services all over the place. Everybody has 10 machines in a back garage or in some little office or whatever it happens to be who do prototyping and product development for people. So that if you want to avoid being in that mix, you need to avoid being in that mix. Now, if you are, these are generally businesses that are localized, so they'll only be inside of your certain city. If that's the case, you need to make sure that you have a Google Maps listing so that when somebody looks for 3D printing on Google Maps, your service pops up. You need to have demos on there. You need to have your aunt and uncle review your listing. That is like more important than even your website. The website needs to be good, but you don't need to have a lot on the website. Just make it decent, show off what your prints are, show off what you do. My own personal opinion about this is to actually focus really heavily when doing this, because if you're doing a 3D printing service, you need to be good at what you're doing over the other guy. If you have bamboo machines and he has bamboo machines, what makes you different? Most 3D printing services end up dying because they end up kind of being overworked and underpaid. This can happen by having 10 different 3D printing processes, 10 different 3D printing machines, whatever it happens to be, to where one client needs resin parts and another client needs FDM and another client needs SLS, so on and so forth. All of those workflows are different, and it's really tough to build up the processes when you have so many different versions of things that you can offer to people. If a client comes to you and asks for, I need a prototype for this, you're gonna be like, well, do you want it cheap or fast, or do you want it good, or whatever it was? You need to have all those answers for the client. This is what many service bureaus fake and miss. They do not realize that the customer does not know what they want. You need to tell them. This is almost as much of a sales process as it is an engineering process. If you are a prototyping company, a service bureau, you need to tell the customer what they want. They say, I want to make a prototype for this enclosure. You're like, good, here's FDM. You need to use this, go. That kind of thing. You need to lead them along. Or you need to set up the service to where you can catch everybody and be like, cool, you want to do resin. We only do resin, and it makes a high quality prototype for you so that you can later on get a mold. Be that guy. It's really, really important to know who you are and what you're doing. So that's the setup of the business. You know what you're doing, you know what your offering is, but now how do you actually go and get customers? Like I said, get the Google listing. That's really, really important because people are gonna Google 3D printing service in my area. First thing, almost always, if they're doing prototyping work or general type of product development work. They wanna be close to the person who's helping them do it. You may include things like CAD services. That's probably where you're gonna make more of your money. But if you wanna do CAD services, then you're not a 3D printing service bureau. You're a product design and engineering kind of a company, which is a different sales motion than being a 3D printing service. This is why many product development firms have printing over on the side in order to help with prototypes, but they are mainly making the money from the engineering effort of creating the CAD models, which is just higher margin. The other ways you're going to get clients is by looking at companies in your area. You're not going to Google this or anything else. You're not going to be finding customers via email necessarily. You're going to find a company in your area who needs plastic parts, who needs product development. It might be a startup, it might be an established factory, something along those lines. And you're going to walk into there and you're going to say, hey, Can I help you improve your processes? I operate a 3D printing and product development service here. Here's what we'll do. We'll work for free. I want to have access to your factory. Can you let us in? Park me in a chair right here so I can just watch. And then you can stare and look around at that factory and say, right there they need a jig that's 3D printed. Right there they have a broken part that's run out. Right there I saw a guy rush back and try to find a spare part that doesn't exist anymore. And you're going to identify their problems. And then you're going to put together a proposal for them. And you're going to say, here are like 10 parts that I found inside of your factory that I think I could 3D print. You will then design one or two of those yourself for free at cost to yourself, and you're going to give those parts to the person in charge and say, here are the parts, go ahead and try them out. And then you're going to follow up, and you're going to follow up, and you're going to follow up. Inside of sales, you have to contact a person 3 to 7 times before they even remember your name and start to think of you as an option. But you are going to do that sales process. You're not going to run Facebook ads. You're not going to wander around. You're going to be a salesperson. This is how you do a 3D printing service. Now, if you do want to start doing broader marketing, you can do it through content. Again, don't buy ads. Everybody buys ads. There are bigger companies who are print services than you who are going to buy ads. You need to do content, and you need to have it focused in your local area, and then you need to go watch a Gary Vee video about how to retarget those if you do actually end up running ads. But again, you don't want to. You know who your customer is because you set up your service that way. We make miniatures for architects. We make brackets and gears for factories. We engineer new toys for whoever it was. Based on what your service is, that decides who you're going to talk to. Once you have defined who your customer is, go talk to those customers. They're not a secret. You know who has the factory. You know who's designing a toy. You know who the architects are, and it's easy to find. And then you're going to talk to them directly, give them your offer, and you're going to be really, really stringent about it. And in the upfront, you're going to be really, really giving about it because you're trying to help them. You're not trying to sell them. You're not trying to get dollars out of their pocket. You're trying to help them. Now, one of the fallacies that 3D printing services always fall into is that the client will say, okay, you've done these prototypes for me. They were great. I paid you $1,000 for the prototypes. We need 100 more pieces, but we don't want to get a mold. Can you 3D print 100 or 1,000 pieces for me? I would recommend avoiding that because it's low margin work that is not in your core expertise. You're going to be so busy running machines and operating machines and packing boxes rather than going and getting more customers who need prototypes and engineering work, which is where the high margin work is. This is where you want to stay. If you are a service bureau, you want to stay in the high margin stuff and not get distracted by, oh, they're going to pay me another $100. I'm going to make 100 parts for them. It's going to be easy. No, it's not. It is a distraction. Do you want one customer who is decreasing in value as they scale up, or do you want 2 customers who are just highly valuable, who are paying you for engineering work? This guy takes 2 hours of work. This guy takes 2 hours of work. Or do you want the one guy who takes 2 hours of work and then 100 hours worth of work making a commoditized product, who is eventually going to leave you for the actual mold or actual production? This is a reason to use things like external services and again, set up your business so that you have a production partner so that when a client asks for 100 or 1,000 parts, you just say, sure, right here. I sent the parts over to this other guy. They'll get them produced and sent out for you. You can hide that. You can wrap that inside of yourself and throw a 10% margin on top of it so that you're making money without having to do any work. But do not distract yourself with low-grade production work if you are a service bureau. Your job is high-margin engineering, design, customer support. If you're doing production work, you're distracting yourself and spreading yourself out without creating more value. You are hurting scalability and profitability and making your life more miserable by trading hours for dollars in a way that is not high margin. Think about it like opportunity cost. Do you want to spend your time that you can bill $100 for or $150 an hour for CAD? Do you want to spend that time running 3D printers where you get paid $10 an hour or doing CAD where you get paid $150 an hour? That's the decision. Over time, you can grow and maybe production becomes viable. You hire employees who are kept efficiently busy by operating the print farm continuously. In that case, you can maybe start moving into production. It's still lower margin because the more a customer orders, the less they pay you. The higher the volume, the lower the margin. This is just the rules of production. So why do you even want to go that direction? Give it off to somebody else who focuses on it. But if you are turning into a mass production service who does 100 to 10,000 pieces with a bunch of bamboo machines or something like that, What you want to do is make sure, again, you're focusing on specific niches, because every client will have different requirements otherwise. And if you are engineering and running a sales process on really unique situations where this guy needs ASA at this resolution and this person needs PLA at this resolution and they also need it by next week and this guy needs it in 3 months, blah, 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 blah. There's so much variation that you as a service need to set the rules of like, this is what we make, you have to fit inside of these rules, otherwise we can't do it, because it will break our flow and break our people, and you'll end up working a whole bunch of weekends trying to keep the client happy, and then they'll be meh, because it's not your core competency. Get really, really good at a certain delivery type of item. So you might be, oh, we're a mass production service for electrical enclosures using ESD safe TPU or something like that. That is something that you can do, and then you have a set batch of clients who all operate in the same way, and you can operate efficiently, and your team isn't broken by all the variation that can come in. The biggest danger to 3D printing service bureaus is choices. You can make anything, so what do you make? You have to keep yourself focused and targeted. You have to know who your customer is, who your ideal customer is, and then go talk to them. And then you have to set the rules of what your service is so that you attract more of those ideal customers. And do not have feature creep of the guy who wandered in the door and asked for something, and then the actual corporation who asked for something. The other thing with service bureaus that is stupidly important is to understand what a good client is. This will take practice, and you will not know it immediately. But generally, a bad client is someone who needs every decision made for them, needs you to give information about every single aspect of the project, and do not know what they want. They are stupidly, and then they also jilt you on price and want everything cheaper. These are the worst clients. You end up sending 50 emails for a $100 job that the client then wanders around on and then goes and leaves you for somebody else who's a little bit cheaper. Don't do that. The very best clients in my career, as I have worked with, we've emailed twice, I sent them a quote, they said go, and then they reorder every month, and we talk once a year to double check on things. But they are too busy and are actually doing something to where they are leaving you to do the job. You are the professional, they trust you to be the professional. If the client needs to be in it all the time and needs you to make the decisions for them, but they don't want to make the decisions themselves, you should probably cut them out and fire that client, because they are sucking up all your time when you could be going and getting better, high quality clients who trust you and want to work with you and who you can give a delightful experience to. Because the people who are really, really needy will never be satisfied. All right, so that should cover up everything for being a 3D printing service. Make sure you know who your customer is, be really focused, do the high value work, delegate everything else or send it out to a service if you start to do low margin production work. That's not your thing. Prototyping is high margin, low volume. Stay there, get really good at it, understand who your clients are. Now, let's go on to the next one. If you are purely in design, you are probably selling files. Selling files is a really, really high margin business. But it is also exceptionally difficult because right now on the internet there are over 20 million 3D model files that people can basically download for free or get located. And we also live in a world of AI model generation to where a lot of kind of general purpose models can be created by anyone anytime, and that's only getting better. But within all of this, most of the files out there are either decorative or toys. And this is kind of a brand identity of 3D printing that is totally not true, but is what people recognize it as. If I was starting out designing 3D models and wanting to make a business of it, the first thing I would do is make useful prints for 3D printing nerds. This means tool organizers, accessories for machines, things that make your spools work better, toys and tools, that kind of thing, to where people immediately understand what the value of the item is. It's not a question of taste or anything along those lines, and they will download it for the device that they actively engage in. Whatever 3D printings love even more than their 3D printer is making parts for their 3D printer. And there are not enough people who actually design these functional things because it is very difficult to find a problem and solve it. It is way easier to just make another fidget dragon and try to catch the wave. Don't do that. Stay away from fidget dragons. In fact, if there is any trend going on at any given moment, you probably want to avoid it. Because if the trend is going on, it's probably just about to end. So you do not want to catch when it's starting, you want to have been there when it started. Okay. So, you're designing useful models for 3D printing nerds. you are going to sell the 3D prints of them. You probably want to look not at Patreon, but probably a more formal place like Thangs, or a service that actually allows you to deliver files in an efficient way. Patreon is really, really difficult to deliver files on because you're basically sending them in a zip file or a Google Drive and trying to manage access through this cobbled together system. Patreon isn't really built that way. A lot of people use Patreon just because they've been on it for forever, but you should probably just be on Thangs. Some people will do multiple platforms. Don't really recommend that very much because you are dealing with multiple platforms, having to post in multiple places. There aren't very many tools for you. Now, admittedly, you have your job on this, but again, remember where your highest value work is done. Are you more valuable posting the files, or are you more valuable creating more files? And this is a big one about it too. You need to be patient and you need to have volume. You need to start making a ton of files. You need to model 3 to 4 things a day. You need to have one that you're finalizing, one that's being printed, one that is in a final iteration, and one that you're just getting started. Just the full spectrum of evolution of a product to make sure that you are creating stuff fast enough, because you are going to have to discover what people really actually want. Starting with function and starting with 3D printing nerds, great place to start because they're always looking for something. Those are the early adopters. But if you want to grow and continue to get money from it, you need to be able to get people sustainably and continuously, which means that you have to understand what people really, really want. You're in the content business. Now, how do you monetize it and what do you charge for your files? Well, most people just charge a monthly fee of like $10 and they get access to a limited part of your catalog. You do not want to give access to the full catalog. People can just bulk download that and then you're going to lose control of all your files over the place. And your subscribers are not going to stick around because there's no new access. The best way of doing it is basically create 50 files for each month of the year. And then you start rotating through those and adding more in as time goes by. So 50 files in the first month, 50 files in the next month, so on, so forth, so on, and so forth. Build out your catalog like that. 10 files is okay too. You don't have to do a bajillion. This will depend on what the style of your file part is, how complex it is. That will be the decision of it. But you set it up so that each month people get a new batch, and then when you loop through on the next year, you basically reuse past files and re-unlock them for everybody. And then that's a reason for people to stay in the subscription and that these files rotate through. It's kind of like Disney. They made Snow White back in 1928 or whatever it was, and then every 20 years they re-release it on VHS, on Blu-ray, on streaming, and each time people come around and pay them to watch Snow White in the new format. That is what you're doing. You're gonna reimagine, re-upgrade, re-show, re-dig up. And this is actually a good way of doing it because it limits access to your file catalog so that piracy is not as big of an issue. But piracy is an issue. You are going to lose control of your files, and this is probably the biggest danger of designing files for the internet, is that generally, once somebody has downloaded it, you have lost total control of it. It can show up on Etsy to be sold as a file. It can show up on somebody else's Things page. There's no real policing of it, so it's super high risk. But you are able to get around that if you want to design files by selling prints, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more. But if you don't want to operate a print farm, which is probably why you're selling files, there are services around like Teleport where you can just upload your models and prints of them can be sold, and you just spend your time designing new files. But again, we'll get to that later in this video. So how do you get the customers for this? Well, fortunately, places like all the repos like Thangs, Shapeways, or Thangs, Thingiverse, MakerWorld, Cults, all of them are trying to show good models to people. So they have an incentive to show your models to them. Generally, those websites are not super sophisticated about it, so you are going to have to get an Instagram account. The good news is that you only have to print off one version of your item, and then you can film videos of it for forever. So in the morning, you're going to be designing working on those 4 files that you're working on for the day, and then in the afternoon, you're going to be filming videos of the prints that you made from them. You are going to, this is why, again, you want the functional items, because we live in a world where video is king, and things that are functional are very demonstrable. Did you make a cap that keeps the coffee from spilling? Did you make the tray that organizes tools under your machine? Did you make an awesome pencil cup holder? All those things are very demonstrable. So you want to be making prints that are really demonstrable so that you can film videos of them and share them. By the way, you also want to film screen recordings of all of the CAD work that you do, because oddly enough, that is really, really attractive right now in this moment. It might change a couple years from now, but as video goes, CAD design that is sped up and time-lapsed is really good content. Now, the design of files through a subscription model is going to be a long, slogging haul. You're going to go 6 months without having anything. You're going to have 2 or 3 subscribers. It's not going to be good money, but you have to keep on going because you're in the content business. It's a lot like a YouTube channel. When we start a YouTube channel, we expect 1 to 2 years of putting videos out on that channel before it starts to dogleg like that. Content for files is the same thing. You have to just continue to do it. So do it as a side hobby, a hustle, whatever it happens to be, to where you're putting into it. But it's a subscription type of business, which means it's compounding. You start off with one guy paying you $10, and then you have 2 guys paying you $20, and then you have 10 guys who pay you $100 total from all their $10 fees, and then so on and so forth. And each new subscriber you gain, one at a time. You can DM people. You can DM 3D printing businesses saying, hey, you should check out my files, and you get 1 new subscriber every day. If you get 1 subscriber a day, by trolling Instagram and DMing people and saying, hey, I have awesome files over here. Here's a screenshot, you should check it out, and here's also a free file. That is how you can get a lot of people. 1 subscriber a day is, at $10 a day, is $300 after a month, $600 after 2 months, and $3,600 every month after a year of doing it by gaining 1 subscriber a day. The good news is that after you learn how to get 1 subscriber a day, it'll start to get easier to start getting 2 subscribers a day. And you get better and better and better, and it grows and it builds on itself. That is how you build a 3D printing file business. You're going to create content. You're going to make a ton of files so that you have something valuable as you build up the business model. And then you're going to have a goal of getting 1 subscriber a day by hitting Instagram DMs or messaging Etsy stores to say, here are more files that would work for you. And then as you do that, you're going to learn who responds to you the best, and then you're going to target more of those people. You're going to find the customers that you really, really want, and then you will grow. Do not rely on discovery. You're not an actor trying to get found at a soda fountain. You are a business trying to make sales, which means that you need to go out and sell, which in this case, DMing people on Instagram. That's the way to do it. It works fine. You can also do it on TikTok, any of the social media platforms. You can share it on Reddit and that kind of thing. But again, posting to a general kind of forum is kind of like, again, posting on the internet saying, oh, I have a website. Oh, I posted on this group. Nobody cares. Go message someone specifically so they know you care and just have that goal. 1 new subscriber per day. After you have about 100 subscribers or so, they're going to start to tell their friends, or they're going to post their own videos about it and show where the files got to. And then the grapevine's going to get around, and this will break away from you quickly. File selling is great once it breaks away because it takes you no more effort to have 10,000 subscribers than to have 10 subscribers. This is a fantastic business model in that way. But getting those first 100, few hundred subscribers is going to be hard. Once you grow up to the 10,000, you can keep on going. You will have so much extra cash, so much EBITDA from all that subscription revenue without having to do more work that you can start buying ads. You can start collaborating with other people, all these things. So it is a really, really good business model. And then if you really want to get control of your files so that you're not on the wheel of having to create new files all the time, what you can do is start selling prints of the things through a service like Teleport, and then you know the files are always under your control, but you also get to expand out from people who own 3D printers to people in general. And this is how you can really scale up your file business, because you have a maximum addressable market in 3D printing of about 1 million people who will buy a subscription and download your file at least once or so. And then you have all the churn inside of that. But if you sell the actual prints of it, you have the total addressable market of basically all humans, or at least the full United States, to where you can sell to 360 million people who want the item and don't want to print it themselves. So there's a bigger market over there if you are designing really useful things. So that is kind of the way of doing files businesses, so that you can actually kind of keep it protected, move it around, learn how to work with the subscription model, and build from there. But the main thing, when you start, you're gonna design a bunch of files, you're gonna DM a bunch of people, and you're gonna make a bunch of videos of the demoed items. All right, now this is probably what everybody else has been looking for, is the sales of prints themselves. You have a 3D printer, you wanna start up an Etsy store or some kind of business selling 3D printed items. The very first thing I would say, and the very strongest thing to understand here right off the bat, is that you are not selling 3D prints. You are selling products. This is really important to understand because 3D printing is not a brand identity. It does not make the thing cooler. Nobody cares that my shirt was woven. Nobody cares that your shoes were injection molded. Nobody cares that your car was stamped. They care that they have a car, that I'm wearing a shirt, that my shoes fit well. Those kind of things. Understand that the customer is not buying the process, they are buying the product. Also understand that the product is not the business. The product is one part of the business. Having a 3D print and having it for sale is not a business. That is a product listing of a 3D print. If you want a business, you need to understand marketing. You need to understand sales. You need to understand product itself, and you need to understand customer support and service in general and that kind of thing. You are full stack now. You need to understand that. Okay, starting at the very beginning. You're gonna sell 3D prints. Okay, how are you gonna do it? You probably have a personal 3D printer at home. That's the place to start. Great, that is the place to start. Build up an Etsy store. That's generally the best because Etsy has really, really simple marketing to get started with. Etsy stores are really easy to get started if you don't have any marketing expertise at all. That's a place where many of the tools are already there so that you can get rolling. Things like Shopify, your own personal website, that kind of thing, those are kind of expert level settings where you need to understand how to buy ads, how to actually share and market your product. Etsy gives you an existing clientele who kind of understands what your thing is. Now, that's the place to list. You can get it started up there. You can start selling one or two things. It is very possible and very doable to scale an Etsy store from $0 to about $3,000 a month within a couple of months if you are focusing on it very intentionally. And again, another big old core thing. If you want it to grow fast, this has to be the only thing that you're doing. And you have to have deliverables every single day of like, I emailed this many people, I created this many listings, I created this many products, so on and so forth. Inside of Etsy, you need to understand how that platform works and only work on that platform. Now, you are gonna have to buy ads. You are gonna have to have budget. You are starting a business. You are starting a manufacturing business. Get ready to spend some money. If you cannot afford to spend $100 on your business, you are not ready to start the business. Go drive Uber for a couple of days and store up some loose cash to get this done. Or save whatever you have to do. You are gonna have to spend money to get started. Okay, you have the 3D printer. You have an Etsy store set up. That's the baseline. We can go into all the other Uber ones a little bit later on. You have the store. How do you start getting that first sale? You're gonna turn on ads and you're gonna make 15 listings. That is how you're gonna do it. Those 15 listings, okay, where do I get files for the 15 listings? Whole different thing now. You can design parts yourself or you can download parts yourself. There are 20 million 3D models online or you can learn CAD or learn how to use AI. All of these are legitimate, completely legitimate. AI slop is AI slop. Don't make AI slop. If you're gonna use a 3D model generator, use it for baseline parts and then upgrade the value by maybe adding in a wireless charger or refining the model a bit. Don't take the first pass. All first pass AI stuff is garbage because it's soulless and untouchable. But if you use it as a tool to start and get an idea and then evolve it and iterate and try a few times, and then you pull it down and you polish up the edges and that kind of thing and get rid of the third finger, then you can clean it up and make a really good quality product, and AI helps enable you. Now, you can use CAD. There's lots of CAD out there. You're gonna have to learn a skill. It's gonna take a while. It takes about 1 to 2 weeks to become reasonably proficient at CAD to make something functionally okay. That will not make you a product designer. That will allow you to make something functionally okay. And then downloading files, you got 20 million files out there. People will always try to sell fidget dragons and you'll look online and see, oh, here's the most popular item and so on and so forth. Ignore all of that. Go find something that solves a problem for someone. Find a functional print. Say, I have a Toyota Camry and I need a center console dish for it. What can I get? Does that exist? Make that. Make a console dish that holds ketchup packets, and make a console dish that holds a Yeti cooler, and so on and so forth. That is how you design or find products for yourself. You can find them or you can source them yourself. Finding models is totally okay. You can find models from designers who do not have 50 other people selling those models. There are thousands of designers who are trying to make a living. We talked about this earlier in the video. They are looking for a new customer. Go work with them. And then if you want to become a partner with them, if you get to them really early, you can start to direct the types of things they design, and you continue to subscribe to them, and they continue to design awesome stuff. So that is how you can grow your business almost in partnership with a designer. So how you source your files is up to you, but make sure you start by solving a problem. This makes it easy to market, it makes it easy to demonstrate. This is important. We live in a video world. You're gonna demonstrate your stuff and you're gonna make videos. You don't have to be on video, but you have to show the product on video because this is the world. Okay, so now you have a group of products. How do you go about listing them and what are the kind of like philosophy of products? You're solving a problem, great. You have a product that starts to work, great. 3D printing gives you a stupidly powerful superpower. You are able to take a product that works and split it into 10 more SKUs. You know how I was talking about that center console before? You start with the console, then you make one that holds sticky notes and a pen, then you make one that holds a Yeti cooler. That is what you do. When you find one that's working, you take it and you split it out. You basically A/B test products and continue to allow it to evolve. This is really important because it allows you to get to a product that people really, really love and addressing it in many ways for different people while still having the base core product so that it's reliable and manufacturable. Some people will sell fidget dragons and pencil cups over here, but nobody wants those two things together. They don't create value for the customer. They're just stuff that you're storing on your store. So your store is convoluted, Etsy doesn't know how to market it, and customers don't know how to think about you because you have no identity. If you're the Camry console guy, now people know to relate to you and they know on their next car to get the part from you and so on and so forth. So you create the core item and then you continue to iterate and create more versions of it until it gets better, and then you can start splitting it out into individual functions and individual problem solutions that you have created over time. And you get to do that with printing because you don't have to cut a mold each time. You just have to upload a new model. And again, you might be working with a designer who will create those new versions for you, so on and so forth. The flywheel continues. Okay, now you have all the models. Product listings. It's okay to use AI to create product listings for you, but train it, prompt it, direct it, and don't take the first draft that it gives to you. It's always garbage the first time around, and all of the AI identifier software out there can see it, and it will deprecate your listings. So don't do that. Now you have an Etsy store, it's up and functioning, and you're rolling through life, and you have products, and you're evolving products. Where do you go from here? Well, you might start to move into other areas like Amazon FBA, where you have to box up parts and then ship them to an Amazon warehouse so that they can be in Prime, because if they're not in Prime, you're way down in the search listings. That's okay if you have a product that solves a really specific problem, but still, you generally want to be in Prime. It's really hard to do. You have to get UPC barcodes, all this kind of stuff. You have to do shenanigans. It's a lot of work. It is also low value work because now you're running a print farm rather than making more really high value products. So you may want to outsource that to a service to where it's the only thing that they do so that you are able to focus on stuff that's really important. It will be more expensive to use the service on a per part basis, but you are saving time because you can create another product that sells $1 million rather than diddling around with producing a product that currently sells 100,000. That's the thing to do. You have to be constantly precious about your time and doing the work for you that is really important to you without getting bogged down in what the day-to-day sort of operation of a print farm. Plus, if you're operating a print farm, you're now in a different kind of a monster to where you're running a factory. The machines are going to depreciate. They might be the wrong size. They need maintenance. You need more people to operate them, all that stuff. Or you can send it out to a service. Again, there's lots of services out there. They didn't used to exist, but like our Teleport Print on Demand service, you can upload files and we will print and ship items directly to your customer for you. So if you have an Etsy store and you're really good at marketing and knowing how to sell, and you can even design decent products, then you should probably be using a service so that you are not also operating a print farm, which is really low value work compared to the design and the marketing that you are doing through the store. But that will allow you to then get access to thousands of machines rather than 10 that you have inside of your garage so that you can actually grow and scale really quickly and focus on those things that matter. Now, how do you deal with copycats inside of here if you had designed an original product rather than downloading something? And even if you had downloaded it, there's a lot of copycats there right off the bat. This goes back to what I said at the very beginning. Your product is not the business. If you are starting a business, you are no longer a 3D printing nerd. You are a business person. The business has multiple facets to it. The marketing, the customer experience, the manufacturing is a part of it, but it's only a part of it. The packaging, so on and so forth. All these things. differentiate yourself in all the other areas. If you have a product that is selling well, you need to maximize the amount that you can sell, which means that instead of you figuring out how to produce more parts for Amazon FBA, you need to go get listed on FBA and then TikTok Shop and then every other marketplace. And then you need to figure out how to advertise and sell as much as you can on that so that you get 1,000 reviews on each one of those platforms, so that if anybody tries to copy you, they're behind because they have 2 reviews and you have 1,000. You have to move fast when you have the thing that is working, because people will copy you. People really want to copy Nike shoes. There are a lot of clones of Nike shoes, but you know what? People buy Nike shoes instead because they don't want the commodity. They want the most reliable, the most consistent, and the least amount of choice or concern about getting the right thing. They just want to get the thing. So do not get bogged down in printing out the parts. Do not get bogged down in individual sort of shenanigans in any given day. Make sure that you are picking the thing each day that grows your business and gives you a lead. If you have a product that's working, I recommend hitting every platform as hard as you can so that you definitely own that space. And then if somebody does copy you, who cares? You got 1,000 competitors who all have 2 reviews or none or another product listing, but you are the top listing because you have the most sales, the most reviews, and customers buy from you more because of those first 2 things. So go that direction. 3D printing businesses always kill themselves because they get a bull by the tail and then they ride along and they're like, great, I'm doing so great, but competitors are coming. I need to get more printers in here so I can make more parts. No, outsource that. Get that off your plate immediately and go figure out how to sell more of them where you need to so that you stay ahead of the competitors. Because the first thing that I would do as a competitor, if I saw a product that was working really well over here on Etsy, I would go sell it on Amazon. Because I know that the Etsy guy isn't over there. But if the Etsy guy gets over there first, then I gotta go find someplace else to differentiate. Because you definitely don't want to be the competitor who is the 20th entry into that category. That's just dumb. But being the second, when the other guy's only like 10 ahead of you, not that big of a deal. You can really win in that. And whoever is going to be the most concentrated and most focused will win out. So that is how you scale up e-commerce. From there, after that, you have to start buying Facebook ads, all those kind of things. Those are important. We're going to focus on the startup part of this, and it will always be bespoke to your individual business of how you continue to scale beyond that like 100,000 units or so. But, okay, so that is selling online. I just talked about how you can go to other places. Everybody sells to the Etsy shop. That is the easy, low-hanging fruit of this whole thing. But there are other places to sell. Right now, there are tons of independent stores around you. There are mall stores. Heck, there's freaking Costco who will allow local businesses to sell inside of the local store. Start making calls. Or even better yet, don't try to sell retail items, because retail items you get caught in a pricing war anyway, where you get a third, the wholesaler gets a third, and the retailer gets a third. And you fight that battle to where margins are just limited. A better thing to do is if you have gotten good at designing particular products and you realize, oh, I designed this awesome tool organizer for wood shops and that kind of stuff. I'm going to call up that cabinet company in town who's got a factory down there and say, hey, do you need tool organizers at every one of your stations? I will produce them for you. I will get them produced for you. And then they order 200 of them from you at regular retail pricing because they don't care, because it's really high value to them. And now you're not in the whole, how much of a pie do I get? You have something that's really high value to somebody that solves one of their painful problems. And this is a really good way of going about it. It kind of turns you almost into a print service, but a print service allows the customer to bring them products and then they figure out how to deal with it. You are creating products and then selling them to these targeted customers. You can do the same thing that a print service should do. You go to that factory, you say to the customer, what's the problem you have? And they may or may not have an answer, but then you say, okay, can I just sit here in the corner for a day? I'll sign an NDA and just watch the factory line. Call your buddy to say, will they let you in and let you walk the lines to say, oh, that guy is struggling to find his tool because it's in this pile of stuff. I can make an organizer for that station, this, that, and the other thing, so on and so forth. You can do this with restaurants. You can do it with shops. You can do it with a donut shop. You can do it with bakeries, whatever it happens to be. Wherever people are doing stuff inside of the store, Create an item that solves their problem by going and watching them operate. Now, I say that it's very hard to do because many people do not know how to identify problems or understand friction. So it's a thing that you may or may not be suited for. But if you are, this is the way to do it. And then you call up that restaurant chain and say, yeah, I got a new handle for your fryer so that people don't keep burning your hands and your OSHA bills will go down. Then you print off a ton of those, sell it to them for high margin, and then you can go to a different state and sell it to them too. And it's a phone call away because you're solving a pain point for them. Another way you can do this is you can also go to trade shows and you wander from company to company of a very specific type of trade show. Again, restaurateurs, whatever it was. And then find and then talk to people and say, what is your problem? What's the biggest pain point? What's your biggest irritation in your day? And then fix that. And you want to do it with simple stuff, really easy things, chucks, blocks, so on and so forth. Ford itself has saved millions of dollars a year using 3D printed pieces to prevent a piece of a transmission gear from getting chipped. That's the kind of stuff that you're looking for because you can sell them that solution for less than $500,000 a year because you're saving them money that they would have otherwise lost, so long as you can prove it. And the way you prove it is that you give them a few of the things for free right off the bat. This is the thing that people really need to understand with all of these businesses. You're going to work for free for a period of time. You are going to sacrifice, you are going to give up resources, you are going to help the customer completely without any sort of a return in order to get the customer. And then you're going to take care of them and you're going to make them love you. But you are not going to wander in there and say, I got a $500 part, you should try it out. Everybody's going to immediately kick you out because you're bothering them during the day. They don't want to look at your thing and they don't know if it's worth $500. Make yourself worth $500. Make them feel like they owe you something because you've been so helpful that you've actually done something useful for them. There's the way of doing it. So that is another way to create a print selling business. Lawn care companies, landscaping companies, they have parts and pieces falling off of their weed whackers all the time. Create the replacement parts because they're probably waiting 3 weeks for the existing parts from the OEM. Create an alternative that is better. Give them ergonomic handles for the weed whacker, that kind of stuff. This is really low-hanging fruit that is easy to do. And again, you don't have to produce all the parts. You don't have to run the printers yourself. Your value is in making the sale and designing the item. Running the printers can be done by someone else. Find a print service. Use Teleport. You can set up a Shopify store on Teleport, create these things that your wholesalers buy from you so that your customer, who's the landscaper, can basically go to that thing and order a spare part immediately and know it shows up a few days later without you having to worry about, oh, I gotta make sure I start up the printers this morning and then I could go design that part that's gonna sell at $100,000. You can just go design the part and then you can sell the $100,000. So make that decision of whether you wanna run the print farm or have a service. Generally, once you grow to a certain size, having your own print farm is a really good idea because that can be efficient. But when you're small, a service can generally be a good idea because it forces you into good industry knowledge because services know what everybody else is selling, so they know what pricing should be. So if your pricing doesn't work within that service, you probably have something wrong somewhere in your business model because everybody else is doing something different. Now, and you're probably too cheap. And this is a thing. People always end up too cheap. How to price these parts? You start out with the cost of the part, multiply it by 3. That's the easy universal rule that should not be applied to everything, but it's a baseline to at least kind of keep you safe. The correct answer is as much as the customer will pay you. Yeah, that's great. Start with your price really high from what you think it should be. Try to find similar items and price higher or at the same price than those. I'm saying higher because you want to be seen as the best version of the lot. You don't want to be the cheapest because the cheapest out of a list of 3 is the worst quality. So why would somebody want your item when the more expensive one is probably better? So be the most expensive sometimes and play the game. You're going to learn, you're going to iterate, you'll knock the cost down as you need to, you'll talk to your customers, understand what their problems are. This is you picking up the phone. If you're doing any of this in a vacuum, you are doing it wrong. So that's selling in the real world. Going back to where you're kind of doing a sales process. If you're selling in retail, you can do parts on consignment. The toughest thing about selling 3D printed parts in normal brick and mortar retail is that they have limited shelf space. They don't want to hold your stuff. But what you can do is you can give it to an independent store who's not an official retailer, a local mom and pop store, and basically say, look, here's a box of parts. When they're all gone, call me and you'll pay me for those box of parts. If they don't sell, I'll come pick up the box here in a month. And they'll be like, okay, cool. It's no risk to us. We can try to sell this thing. If it sells well, we don't owe you until after we've sold them, so it works well. That's called selling on consignment. You can do this with a lot of furniture stores. If you're selling something like lamps, you can do it with toys and stuff inside of a toy store. And a 3D printing company can make really good items inside of a toy store. It's very easy to do because there are a lot of toys out there. So sell a lot of toys. They're fine. So you're going to talk to those individual ones there. Other places to kind of sell right now are live streaming places. Live stream shopping, like QVC style shopping, has started to catch on with items like Whatnot, where literally you can just print out items, print out one of the items, hold it up on the screen and say, hey, get the fidget dragon, and people will buy it from you right there. They'll basically bid on it, and then when they buy it, you can print it out and ship it to them. Or again, put in an order through a service like Teleport so you don't have to think about it. You just spend time there waggling dragons around or whatever your product is. Also, since it is a video service, you can actually demo the product in real life. So maybe you made a new freaking broom dustbin or something and just go full QVC on these live shopping apps in order to get it sold. These are an oncoming kind of a thing that are starting to catch a lot of waves, and a lot of people make decent money on them. But you can also find other marketplaces. There are so many places to sell stuff that just figure out how to sell it. Okay, so we've covered all the ways of selling stuff. You can be a service bureau where you're finding customers and making the parts they ask you to make. You can sell your own files so that you're just designing 3D printable stuff for other people to print. Or you can actually sell prints out there in the real world, in which case you're not selling prints, you're creating businesses around products. If I was 25, starting right now, starting from scratch, the things I would do is I would really heavily leverage AI. I know that sounds cliche as all get out, but learn to use AI design tools in order to create iterations of products. The very best business model is taking a product and learning to evolve it over time so it gets better and better, while simultaneously doing content and doing all the stuff that makes a business. You're not selling a 3D print, you're making a business. If I was designing a business from scratch, I would search around until I can find something that I can sell really expensively. A print that I can make for $2 and sell for $50. That's the ideal type of a business. Where are those? You're gonna look really close at companies and you're gonna find out what their problems are and you're gonna solve them really explicitly to where they are losing so much money from the alternative that you can create a better one. Or the reason you want to sell something so expensive is so that you can make it really high quality, a really unique experience so that the customer remembers it and loves it. Nobody knows what the cheapest phone out there is, but we all know that iPhones are probably the most expensive, but they are also half of the phones out there. Design an iPhone, make it so good that people are willing to overpay for the item. But make sure your item gets out there. Be willing to learn and iterate, because your first try is not going to be right. You're going to need to get comfortable with doing 100 sets of layups before you even make your first one. So start practicing. This is what it is. Get something on the board, start iterating and improving over time. I know you're young, you're probably wanting to get rich quick on this all, but it's going to take some time. Give yourself 6 months, working on it continuously with very little feedback. But find out what those small wins are that you can get. If you're selling files, get 1 new person per day. Try to get that done. Send out 10 Instagram messages, send out 100 Instagram messages. 1 person a day, or get them to at least take the file from you. If you're selling prints, go talk to 3 or 4 businesses per day and say, what are your problems? Until you find somebody who's willing to work with you to get it evolved. And then you can solve the problem for them. And when they see it, they'll be like, oh, sure, yeah, I'll pay you for that immediately. And if you're doing the service, same thing. Just, you have to get out there and you are going to have to beat the pavement. Do that. Many people won't. And this is a tremendous advantage. If you just do it and you give yourself time, you work really hard for a period of time, and you get better as you're going through it all, you have a really high improved probability of success. Most people fail because they think it should be easy or they rely on luck. You need to work to minimize the need for luck as much as possible. So get smarter, do the hard work, and give yourself time. Imagine you're flipping a coin. You might get the wrong flip lots of times in a row, but if you keep on being able to survive and doing the flip, and you're willing to keep your thumb in shape to keep on flicking it up there, eventually it's probably going to turn in the correct direction for you, but you have to continue doing it. This is probably one of the fundamental things that I've learned in my career, is the fact that the people who are generally the most successful just kind of did it for the longest and got really good at a specific thing. So get really good at a specific thing, learn how to do it well, and then do it for a long period of time. There's no get rich quick, there's not. You're gonna work hard for a long time, but so long as you're doing the right things, all of that work will build on itself, and you will get closer and closer to success with each try. Have a great day, everybody.